Corvette today, and we're working on some junk. We've got an EFactory angle kit to put on this car. We've got a lower ratio diff to put in the rear and a bunch of other senseless horse shit that the car needs. We took it out to Mid-Pond a few weeks ago to test it out in its current form. Had a fuel pump issue, had no balls, could not get the car to slide. We got the power back about where it wants to be. Now we got long tubes, redid the exhaust, changed a few other things. It's a lot happier running, but the gear ratio is going to help a lot to get this engine where it needs to be to keep the wheel speed right, and obviously more angle, more better. Let's get to it. So when you get your kit from EFactory, this is what you're going to get in your box. You got your lower control arms, obviously. You got your lollipop replacements. We're not going to be running any bushings or anything like that. You've got new tie rods. You've got your tie rod pivot point adjusters with adjustable Ackerman. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but there's 2 sets of holes and pins. So depending on if you have this on the inside or the outside, let's see. Can you see that? That's got your 2 Ackerman points. So I assume that it goes from 0 to positive or 0 to negative. I'll have to look that up and find out. Then you've got all the associated hardware and everything we should need. So I don't think this is going to be very involved or very hard to do, but let's get into it. All right, pretty straightforward. Pull off the tie rod. We're going to pull off the lower ball joint where our, I don't know what they call that joint, but where this spherical joint or ball joint clips into the subframe and the lollipop. If your car is complete and or nice, you'll have a skid pan to take off for the bottom before you get started, but we don't have those problems. So let's get after it. Okay, so I went ahead and I did the passenger side where we started. I needed to go through it and make sure everything worked before I actually filmed this video. Luckily, everything over there is good. So what I've done on this side is we've gone ahead and we've taken all the nuts off so that I can just come through with the air hammer and break all these fittings apart, so you can see kind of the A-arm or the control arm and the tie rod coming off. We pulled the hub assembly off so that we could remove the dust shield. We don't really need it for this, and it's just in the way and it's ugly, and fuck it, we took it off. We're also doing pads and rotors on this car, so we went ahead and just stripped the brakes so that we can do that. So here we go. You don't have to have an air hammer, but it helps. That easy. So now we're going to pull the tie rod off. So in the instructions from EFactory, they say that once the tie rod is off, that we're going to cut 1 inch off of the inner tie rod. I wasn't super sure about that. I don't like cutting tie rods if I can help it. So I actually threaded the new tie rod onto the inner tie rod, and it's able to go up. I don't know, I think we might have maybe a 1/16 or an 1/8 of an inch of threads left. So with the steering wheel straight, this wheel straight, and that tie rod end all the way in, I was actually towed in. So in my opinion, you don't need to cut the tie rod in. If you just want to, have at it. You've got Tyler back there mounting tires. Yeah. Now that we got the factory control arm out of the way, you've got your long bolt with what appears to be a tie rod end, and that goes through your subframe, and you're going to want to put your nut on it. You want to go a few threads and give it a few good whacks with a dead blow. that'll seat that taper into the bore so that you can, you know, tighten the top nut. We've got Big Johnny here. I believe it has a tapered side. Yep. This shaft has a taper at the top. And that goes into the big hole of your knuckle. You got your washer and your lock nut. That's not the right nut. Got your washer and your lock nut for that. And same deal, I'm going to put my nut on the bottom, since there's nothing to secure it with. A nut on the bottom, dead blow. Smack that thing in there so we can tighten it down. The top of this one that goes through the subframe is a 22 mil. That's what I'm using anyways. And then you'll just tighten that down for an hour because it's fine threaded and it's 13 feet long. Yep. Still here. Same thing. We're going to tighten the nut that goes through the stud johnny on the knuckle. But of course you can't get a ratchet wrench or a socket on there unless you take the speed sensor out. And I'm way too lazy for that. A couple of things I learned from the other side. This kit gives you a lot of damn angle. We didn't measure it yet, but I'm guessing that the trail wheel probably has about 70 degrees and the lead wheel is between 60 and 65. You've got dramatically better angle than stock. It's pretty impressive. The kit is relatively intuitive, even without me making this video for EFactory. They have instructions on their website. They're just not the greatest I've ever seen. I guess it could be worse, but with the brake duct or the brake dust shield out of the way, it's a lot easier to get to. So you've got a spacer on the bolt that goes through this. You got to use this spacer or you're going to have a gap between the things. And you don't want gaps between your things. So, as we did with the other side, we're putting our Ackerman adjustment to the innermost side. This is what EFactory recommends for drift settings, so that's what we're going to start with. I'm not going to lie to you, this part right here is a bit of a pain in the ass. It is not particularly easy to get this in because your cradle, the stud, is at an angle this way, and your control arm is, you know, it's not. So you got to fight it the whole time. So I've got a spud bar. I'm going to go ahead and preload that one in. You do really need to get them started and installed together, or it's just not going to happen. So the little piece that looks like that, where it's got the relief, the radius, and then the flange, that flange is going to go against your nut here, and it's actually going to press into the flat on the spherical bearing in the corner here. So what you want to do is you want to preload your spherical bearing. So they both need to be angled like this. Now on the bottom of this side, you've got a shaft adapter. This is going to go around your bolt and it locks in that heim. I guess it's not really a heim, it's a spherical joint, but same thing. All right, so I don't have a great way to measure caster here. And that's really going to be determined by your lollipops. So what I'm going to do, especially for initial testing while we figure out what the car likes and how it does, I just put my digital angle finder on the strut on the opposite side of the car, and I measured what it was at the side of the strut, and it looks like it's going to be about 8 degrees of caster, which I'm fine with personally. So what I'm going to do is wherever the lollipop on the other side is, I'm going to measure from this back face to the face of the rod end inside of there. I'm going to measure it on that side, match it to this, and we're going to call that our caster measurement for now, because this car does have kind of coilovers on the top with adjustable top hats, so we'll be able to adjust camber there, and then obviously toe is just going to be with the tie rods. Okay, we've got this as close as we can possibly get it. A little bit of oil. Okay. Now that I've spun that a dozen times trying to find my number, so we should be at about 18.9 millimeters. It's pretty damn close. So if you're curious about this angle kit, this is from EFactory. And it's, how much, Tyler? Like 700 Canadian?
Well, no, it's 950 Canadian with shipping, but when it translates to US, it's like 750 or 700.
So, I don't know if you heard him, but it's like $900 Canadian. It is a Canadian company, and they have no vendors in the US yet. We're working on that. But in US currency, you know, freedom dollars, I think it's like 700 bucks, which makes this, by and large, the cheapest angle kit for E46 that is an actual lower control arm and full kit. Honestly, it looks just like the SLR and some of the other kits. All of the welds look really nice. I haven't had any stripping issues with any of the hardware. I don't really have any complaints other than just their instructions, but that's a pretty small price to pay to save a couple $100 and get something that I know has been proven in competition. And some of the guys I know who have run this have been really, really happy with this setup. So we're going to tighten everything down, get the car back on the ground, and we'll show you how to do a string alignment. Okay. Now we got everything put back together. We got the car sat down. We went ahead and rolled the fenders and did a couple other things. But now it is time for us to do the alignment. So we're going to be doing what's called a string alignment, something that you can do at home. So you want to get your jack stands. You need 2 matching pairs, and you need a piece of PVC pipe, 2 pieces of pipe, one at the front of the car and one at the back. You'll cut a notch on each end of that pipe, and both pipes have to be identical or it's not going to work. So we get our pipes in place. This next piece is really high tech. Need some string. So once we get our strings set up, then we'll set the rest of the setup up. We've got our pipes ran across our jack stands. Our string is roughly at the center of our wheel. It does not have to be perfect, but it needs to be relatively close. From this point, what you're going to do is from your center cap or another good point to measure from, but we're going to use the center caps. So we're going to go from the center cap to the string. Now this car got a lot of crazy angle, and now it's got a lot of camber, and it's got a new angle kit. So the front is wider than the rear, and we have different wheels on the rear. So what it is at the front is not going to be the same as what it is at the rear. So what needs to matter, or what does matter, is that the front is the same side to side, and the rear is the same side to side. So from your center cap to your string needs to match side to side. We're going to do that and we'll get back. Now that we're square all the way around the car, we're going to measure from the back of the wheel to the line. And here, what about 3 11/16? And at the front of the wheel, 3 7/8. So we're towed in just a little bit. I need my straight edge. Fucking tens of thousands of marks on that stupid thing. So that is all over 3 7/8. That doesn't get any more dead nuts than that. 3 7/8 and 3 7/8. I just don't know how to read a tape measure apparently. So we're gonna call that wheel good. We're gonna jump to the other side. So we're just on the outside of 3 7/8 there. That's 3 3/4. So how is that? This should be more. This should be a lot more. Hold on a second. From the center, 5 3/4. Fucking welder's about to drive me crazy. Oh yeah, we're fucking not center, sir.
We were.
Five eighths, where it should be.
Oh, these tape measures had the...
Huh?
I don't think mine was, I was pressing it hard enough to offset the...
Yeah, that's why they tell you to use a straight edge. Okay, now we're where we need to be. That is 3 3/4 and 3 11/16. So we're gonna tow this one in a little bit.
We didn't pump garbage bags under it.
I might have gone a little too far. Now we're 3 7/8 there and 3 1/2. So I went way too far. 3 3/4 and just a little over 3 1/2. So you will have to go back and forth, but I know if I'm going from 3 3/4 to 3 1/2, that 3 5/8 should be a happy medium. So that's just outside of 3 5/8, and that is just on the outside of 3 5/8. All right, I'm gonna call that wheel pretty damn good. We'll jump and check the rear. Jumping over to the well-lit side on the rear, 4 3/8. That is also 4 3/8-ish. It's not towed in enough to matter. It's less than a 16th. So cool. We don't have to with that side on the rear. 4 3/8. 4 3/8. We're gonna pull the string line down, and we'll throw the toe plates on and throw the tapes across just to make sure that we're happy side to side. Then we'll throw it up in the air, tighten our lock nuts, and then it's time for a test drive. Okay, these are called toe plates. They just measure the side to side toe on the front. They don't actually square it to the car. That's what the string line is for. So here I am 72 3/4. Wow, that is dead nuts. 72 3/4, both sides. So we are dead nuts, 0 toe in the front just for our initial settings. We're gonna put it in the air, tighten all the lock nuts, do a nut and bolt check on all the parts that we just installed, and then we're gonna go rip this thing. I want to show you how I measure my camber. It's probably not as good as, you know, the fancy gauges and stuff, but I know that my lift is dead level, so I take and I just zero my digital gauge here on the side, and then I go straight to the brake caliper, because that's a hard, flat surface that I know I can zero to. And right there is showing 6 degrees. I already measured the other side. We're within literally a decimal point of each other. So we're not messing with caster. We're not messing with camber. We're going to put it in the air. We're going to tighten our lock nuts, and we're good to go.
Super smooth. That's it, baby. Alright, so far the EFactory kit feels really good driving. It self-steers really nice, it self-corrects. The bite in, the turn in is really crisp and clean. When it did catch itself on the big slide that I did with the camera off because I'm stupid, I just let go of the wheel and caught it where I wanted to catch the car. I mean, it self-steers perfectly. So far, for the cheapest kit that you can buy for a BMW, I am very, very, very impressed for like $700 bucks. We just got back from our test drive. This thing is a ripper. So we're going to show you real quick how much angle you get out of this EFactory kit. Admittedly, we do need to get some spacers on the front of this car because we're actually running into the frame rails, because the kit allows as much angle as you want. So go ahead and turn it right. So that's going to be your lead wheel. I mean, tell me. And then trailing wheel. EFactory angle kit. And this kit will fit E30, E36, and E46. It's the same control arms. The only thing that changes is a little bit of the hardware, but I'm pretty sure it's the same price for all of them. It's like $900 Canadian. It's like $750 American, I think. And one day this car has gone from absolutely not being able to slide to being pretty damn impressive. That's going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, give us a like, subscribe. Thanks for hanging out in the shop. Peace.